On Life and Meaning is brought to you by Blumenthal Performing Arts, celebrating its 25th year presenting the best in the performing arts, sharing and employing the arts as a major catalyst to strengthen education, building community cohesiveness, and advancing economic growth. Further support is provided by Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, one of America's leading urban public libraries, delivering exceptional services and programs with a mission to improve lives and build a stronger community. And by the Arts and Science Council, Charlotte Mecklenburg's resource hub and lead advocate for the regional cultural community, providing culture for all.
Meditation opens us up to compassion. Compassion for ourselves and compassion for others. And when we become compassionate and self-aware, we're so much more open to everyone else. Anger dissipates. Acceptance grows. With acceptance in any situation, you can do something with that. With resistance, you can't, because you're not dealing with reality.
Angela Gala takes the stress out of life. She is co-founder and executive director of Youth Meditation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to giving students, teachers, and parents tools to manage anxiety and emotions. She is also founder and principal of Rogers & Gala Creative Partners, an event planning firm. She has planned hundreds of events and has been featured on The Today Show and has been quoted extensively on event planning in media throughout North America. She previously worked as Director of Private Parties for Charlotte City Club and Director of Catering for the Sheraton Hotel. In this episode, we explore meditation and event planning and what the two have in common in a purpose-driven life. I'm Mark Paris, and this is On Life and Meaning. Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us about youth meditation.
Youth Meditation is a nonprofit that's dedicated to equipping students and their parents and teachers with the skills to navigate adolescence, to overcome fear and anxiety and stress, and find focus and clarity.
How do you do that?
We teach mindfulness meditation. We teach to the students, we teach to the teachers, and when we can, we teach to the parents.
What is mindfulness meditation?
Mindfulness meditation, there are two separate things that go hand in hand, and meditation is a process of relaxation of the mind, body, and spirit. Not something that we're used to doing or very good at, particularly as Americans. Mindfulness is a perspective and awareness of one's inner world. Meditation provides the ability to experience and become aware of one's inner world, and mindfulness are the practices when one isn't meditating on how to recognize those things.
How do you meditate?
You practice, and you're practicing relaxation. Meditation is the antithesis of the way we live. Typically, the way we live, the more you can do, the more you can accomplish, the more goals that you set and complete, the better off you are. Meditation is the exact opposite. There can't be a goal. Once you have a goal for your meditation, you're no longer relaxed. You're looking for outcomes. And meditation is the practice of teaching your body and your mind how to relax.
And how is that done?
Through breathing, through practice, and through coaching. Our courses are 8 weeks in length, and there's a reason for that. When you sit down to meditate for the first time, most people will say, my mind was all over the place. I was here, I was there, I was everywhere. So that wasn't relaxing at all. And then we coach them and give them techniques of how to become a bit more detached from those thoughts and how to allow them to be there. You can't stop your mind from thinking. Your mind was put in your body to think. It's what it does, whether you want it to or not. But what you can do is teach your body and mind how to relax. But that just takes practice, and it takes someone to help you navigate the pitfalls of your own mind.
Practice sounds like effort. How is it that you can practice relaxing?
The way we look at it is it's not something to check off your to-do list. It's a gift to yourself. You deserve to connect to yourself. You owe it to yourself, to all of the efforts you want to bring into the world, to be connected to yourself. It's the way you stay centered. Without that, most people find it difficult. There are some people that come into the world with a better ability than others to stay centered and calm, but the rest of us generally find it's a challenge. So while we call it a practice, and it is because you don't want to judge it, right? You don't want to sit down and say, my goal today was I'm going to sit down and meditate and I'm only going to have 5 thoughts, or I'm going to slow them down, or today's going to be great because I meditated. There's no judgment around it. It is, I am going to give this gift to myself and I'm just going to relax. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to think about anything. I'm going to think, but I don't have to. I don't have to act on it right now. So it sounds complicated, but it's really elemental and really, really simple. Much simpler than we make it. Describing it and talking about it is like trying to tell someone about love. You have to experience it before you can know what it is. Once your body and your mind recognize it, then it will start to become your habit.
Is it as simple as being still and breathing?
It is that simple, but your mind will continue to run on. And what do you do with that? So you need someone to guide you on what to do with that. And different people are different. So the way we guide people depends on the way they come out of that first meditation and they say, this is what happened. And we get to know them a little bit and their challenges so we can help them look at it a different way, perhaps, that will help them gain some perspective on what's happening internally. And once they do, they find their own answers to the questions they have. We don't give it to them. We're simply teaching a technique to help them find it because we all already have it. Everything we want to know, we already know.
Angela, if you were guiding me in meditation right now, what would that sound like?
Why don't we give it a try?
Let's do it.
Okay, great. So one of the things that's most important about meditation is that you sit with your spine straight. We don't want it rigid so that you feel stressed. So your shoulders should be relaxed, but take the kink out of your spine right between your shoulder blades and make sure that it's straight. The air flows better. You can sit in a chair or on the floor with your legs crossed, but never on your bed. And don't lean back. Meditation is an active process. While meditation and sleep are sisters, meditation is when your mind rejuvenates. Sleep is when your body rejuvenates. Okay? So this is an active process. We always sit up. We always start with the breath. In my teacher's language, they call it pranayama, which is the exercise of life. And there's a reason for that. It's the only thing that you can't live without for more than 4 or 5 minutes. Otherwise, sayonara. He was a nice guy, right? So we're going to start with breathing. And we always breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Okay? So spine straight. I'm going to show you once, and then we'll do it together. Okay? And then I'll lead you into a meditation and tell you when to open your eyes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. We'll take a deep breath in through the nose. And then out through the mouth. Okay, you ready? All right, we're going to close our eyes. I'll walk you through it, and then I'll tell you when to open them again. So if the audience would like to join with us, they can experience it too. Close your eyes and relax. Close your eyes and relax. Breathe naturally and relax. Take a deep breath in and hold it. Let it go. No breathing. Breathe in again. Hold it. Let it go. No breathing. Breathe in again. Hold it. Let it go. No breathing. Breathe in again. Hold it. Let it go. Breathe naturally and relax. Breathe naturally and relax. Relax your shoulders. Relax your arms. Relax your hands. Relax your mind. Relax your body. Relax your mind. Relax your body. Relax. 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 Open your eyes and relax. Open your eyes and relax. So what happened? What happened for you?
Well, I felt both relaxed and a little anxious.
Why were you anxious? What were you thinking about?
I was mindful that we were recording for an audience that was listening.
Yes.
And I was hopeful that they were meditating along.
Yes.
And that they were enjoying and being intrigued and fascinated that we would do this as part of the podcast.
Isn't that lovely? So one of the things that we teach in mindfulness and meditation is detachment. So you couldn't fully relax because you were concerned about how your audience would take this, right?
Yes.
But all you really can do is offer your audience what you have. How they take it is not within your control, no matter what you do.
That is a lesson I have learned.
Right. So how do we let go of those types of anxious moments in order to be relaxed? Right?
Angela?
Yes.
Who does youth meditation serve?
Primarily, we serve, I would say, more underprivileged youth. And that's where we get biggest results. However, we're also in private schools. In the private schools, you have children who are having panic attacks in their teachers' offices because the pressure is so great. The pressure to perform, the pressure to measure up, the pressure to look a certain way, to dress a certain way. And their focus is so outward that way. In our more underprivileged neighborhoods where poverty is an issue, a lot of these children live very traumatic lives. Poverty is awful. It's awful on the psyche. It's awful physically. And they grow up in this fight or flight mode and they don't know something different. So when someone presents them with something different like this, it's a relief.
How is it being received by the audiences that you are serving?
Well, so far, quite well. We have a big project with Ashley Park School, pre-K through 8th, where we're teaching the entire school mindfulness meditation and a group of teachers as well. We see every child once a week for 20 minutes. So we will go into each kindergarten class for 20 minutes and teach the class. Now, the way Principal Loftus has us teaching her school, we're seeing these students every 3 to 4 days, which for these children, I think is quite brilliant. There's not a week in between. And so they'll be better able to hang on to it and practice it because we're so much tighter. Typically it's a week, but we will see them 8 times each class. So every student, 8 times.
And how many schools are you in?
Currently, we are in 3 schools. We're at Country Day, Ashley Park, and we are in Rock Hill in the Renaissance Academy, And that is a high school for youth who have been expelled from their home schools. Some of them have been in jail. Some of them are at the school to avoid jail. And they are some of the most brilliant kids. They really are.
What would we witness?
Well, so if you walked in on our first class, you would probably see some laughter yoga. Some of the students are not open in the beginning. They don't know who we are, what we're going to do, what's going to happen. So they're a little leery of what we're doing. So we usually start out with laughter yoga, which is a fun way of making yourself laugh. And they end up laughing genuinely, if for no other reason than the adults in the room look like a bunch of idiots. And that helps them to let down their walls and helps us to connect. And then the second and third session, you'll see us teaching them breathing and short meditations. The little kids will be shorter. The older kids will be a bit longer. And then the rest of the sessions, you will see a combination of us asking them questions, and they're thought-provoking questions that we want them to engage in, and meditating and breathing. And that's what you would see.
And what are you seeing over time with these students as a result of this meditation that you're introducing to them?
They are becoming more self-aware. So I'll give you an example. I had one middle school student. We were practicing a particular mindfulness technique, and she practiced, and the next week she came in and told us she had, and we said, well, what happened? She said, well, my mom was yelling at me for something I didn't do that I was supposed to do, and I practiced the listening technique you gave me, and what I realized was I didn't have to be mad at myself. So what she keyed in on was that what was happening when her mother was yelling at her was that she was getting angry with herself. And now she realizes that doesn't have to be. She can accept her mom being upset. She can accept that she didn't do what she was supposed to do. She can do something different next time.
What needs are you seeing for meditation in the communities that you are serving?
Primarily, meditation opens us up to compassion. Compassion for ourselves and compassion for others. And when we become compassionate and self-aware, we're so much more open to everyone else. Anger dissipates. Acceptance grows. With acceptance in any situation, you can do something with that. With resistance, you can't, because you're not dealing with reality. And when you're being driven by your emotions, you're not clear. You're not seeing what's really happening. And when we allow our emotions to drive us, that doesn't mean that we don't feel things. It means that we're aware. We're aware that we're angry, and then we become aware of why. And when that happens, we don't have to take our anger out on anybody else. We can understand whether or not it's warranted, right? We can be angry about a situation, and we can be okay being angry for a little bit. It doesn't mean we have to lash out or do something that we're going to regret. And in our most challenged communities, anger is the predominant emotion, and I completely understand why.
What reaction are you getting from the parents and the families of these students to whom you're teaching these meditation practices?
So our private clients, parents, are the parents we get to see most. And they are quite grateful. And once their children come in, sometimes they start to come in themselves. And then they come in with their children, and those connections grow. We don't have a lot of access to our public school parents or our private school parents. They, in general, are very open to what we're teaching. They don't understand it enough to want it for themselves, but they want it for their children. The science tells us that aggression diminishes, focus improves, test scores improve, compassion grows. Children and adults alike develop new neural pathways of dealing with stress and intense emotions, where if initially reactivity is their default, meditation helps them develop a new neural pathway where reactivity is not their default any longer. Thoughtfulness is. And children are actually much closer to it than we are. You have to consider that they're not 30 years away from knowing how to be present and knowing how to be relaxed. So they actually get it much more quickly.
You are a nonprofit.
Yes.
You are providing a service to these schools.
Yes.
I imagine they are paying for it.
But we do also accept private funding because the schools can't afford all of it. It's quite labor intensive, but there is great value in sharing this technique person to person.
I imagine since they are paying, they are looking for certain outcomes.
Yes.
What is it that you are measuring, and what are the outcomes that you believe you are delivering?
So this is interesting as a meditation teacher. The one thing we can't be concerned with when we walk into the classroom is the outcome, and we have to forget about it. However, we have developed a partnership with Winthrop University to do an IRB study for Ashley Park School.
What is IRB?
Institutional Review Board approved. And with that, we'll be able to produce data. What we are measuring is resilience, positivity, better ability to focus and be on task in school, and in general, how children feel about their lives afterwards and before. The school, they have their own measurements as well as to how many children are on task, how the teachers who participate feel about their job before meditation and after meditation. Those are the types of things that they were looking for, so that's what we're measuring. For us, we go into it with only one goal, which is to share as genuinely as possible what we know.
How did you, Angela Gala, come to this work? Why youth meditation? How did it arise for you? Why are you doing it?
Well, so 10 years ago, I had a company with my partner, Siggy Rogers, employed 7 people, and we did event work, of course. And I also had 3 children under the age of 5 and a husband. And it was very, very stressful. The stress and anxiety had gotten intense. I didn't realize how long I had lived with anxiety until it started to let go and dissipate. But the catalyst for me was my mother. Anxiety runs in the family. And one day, we walked together 3-4 times a week. And one day I just happened to notice that I wanted to be around her all the time. And I wanted to tell her every problem I had, because she never diminished how I felt, but she helped me realize that they weren't really problems. They were just things. They didn't matter as much as I thought they did. And I always felt better. And the judgment and criticism that exists between mothers and daughters wasn't there anymore. It was like standing next to the sun. She was as beautiful as I'd ever seen her. And so I had to ask her, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Well, I've been meditating with this guy." I said, "Oh my God, I have to get some of that." So that's how it started. And I never stopped.
And who was that guy?
That guy is my teacher and my co-founder of Youth Meditation, Ranjit Diora. And he is from India. And his meditation teacher was the same teacher as Indira Gandhi. And he came to the States as a corporate executive. And then 25 years ago decided to leave all that behind and teach meditation.
And why was it important for you to take what you were learning into the schools?
Well, I had been doing some public school advocacy work right about the time Pete Gorman was superintendent, and we had a big budget crisis. And after a year and a half or 2 of doing that work, I realized no matter what I did would not have great impact. This was a huge ship that would take a very long time to change.
That ship being Charlotte Mecklenburg
CMS.
schools.
Yes. And any school system would be that way. I'm certainly not trying to come down on them. But what I recognized was what had helped me and been so impactful in my life. Had I had that when I was 12, what my school experience might have been and how different it might have been. And then I realized that that's what I had to share. And that's how I could help children and how I could help the schools.
Angela, you have this whole other life in addition to this work you're doing with youth meditation.
Indeed.
You are a notable and admired event planner. Let's talk about event planning. How does an event planner plan events?
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind comments. How does an event planner plan events? I don't know how any other event planner does it because I never worked in that field. I did work for hotels and the city club and that sort of thing. So I knew how to plan the logistics of an event. But to go out on my own, I just discovered it. So the way I plan events is visualizing them first, getting to know who and what the event is for, and having a visceral reaction to that. And then my goal is to translate that visceral response to the audience of that event and help them feel and see what I see and feel. And beyond that, it's logistics and details and lots of them and chasing every single one of them down so that one of them doesn't turn around and bite you in the rear end later.
Are you good at what you do?
I think so, yeah.
What makes you good at it?
Well, experience is one, but I think being present is the other. It's interesting that meditation and creativity can be so alike. Both of them require complete presence, being creative, getting that visceral response, noticing that you have it, and then trying to turn it into something visual, something atmospheric for other people, really requires you to be open to that and to open yourself up to your partners. I am really, really fortunate to have found great partners. And when I say partner, other people may call them vendors, but I call them partners because they're just as integral to the creation of this as anyone, as I am. And sometimes the bright idea comes from them. Sometimes it's not me. And what's really required is letting go of self-consciousness. You cannot plan or create anything and get its fullest expression by being self-conscious. The same goes for teaching meditation. You cannot be self-conscious. It can't be about you.
What are memorable events that you've planned?
Oh, gosh. There are memorable moments in every event. I think one of my favorites was for what used to be United Family Services. It's now Safe Alliance. And there I had recently finished the Innovation Institute executive program and recognized that their artists get involved in the community. And one of their artists was somehow already involved with United Family Services. And so I asked her, as part of this event work, she was a photographer, could we take words from the journals these women were creating and images and help create the room, help create their, I think it was their 100th anniversary event, to show with this organization how this impacts our community. And you can't show the faces of those victims. And so the way she worked around that was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. And it was so meaningful and so impactful. And what I liked most about it was that it impacted directly the lives of the people at the shelter because of the journaling they were doing, because of the creativity in creating their self-portraits and those sorts of things. They were able to find things out about themselves, as any artistic or creative process is liable to do. So it was a gift in so many different ways. I think that's probably one of my favorites.
Are there events you enjoy planning more than others?
I really enjoyed the bar mitzvahs a lot. You really have the opportunity to be a kid again, and they're so fun. You get to do things that adults wouldn't ordinarily do, but it's interesting how the adults almost enjoy it more than the kids do. Because the kid inside of us always lives, right? And it just gives us permission to open that up again.
You've done hundreds of events, right?
Yeah.
So there are events that excite you and there are events that have become routine. What is the event that excites you?
Wow. Now, of course, I'd like to say that any event that I do does not become routine or I have stopped doing my job. But there are some that are more on autopilot than others. I do love working with artists. Any event that gives us creative license, that really opens up the door to anything's possible. This is what we want people to leave saying. Now you tell us how we do that. That's a great event. That's a lot of fun. We'll figure that out.
What makes for a good event?
The basic needs of the guests are taken care of, and the hosts are happy and relaxed. That makes a good event.
What gives you bang for the buck when you plan an event?
Oh, lighting. Absolutely. It is the most economical way to create atmosphere. You can change an entire space just by how you light it.
Has the internet changed the role and value of event planners?
That's a great question. I suppose it has. We use the tools as much as brides do. I do, however, think that there's more available online to help a bride. And the reason why I bring up a bride is because they are responsible for such a big event, and the majority of them have never planned an event before. Meeting planners and that sort of thing, corporate planners, that's a whole different animal. And I don't know that it's changed the need for us quite as much. But from a social perspective, I think there are a lot more tools out there for the individual who's planning their event. But I haven't seen a negative impact. There are better tools now for nonprofits to raise money. They don't always need to have an event. When they do events, they don't always need an event planner. But when you need one, you need one. And I can say from experience that there are some nonprofits who have events that shouldn't have them. They cost more money than they're worth, and they're not building their constituency, and they're not bringing them money. So why they're having them, I don't know. And there are other ways to do that. There are other ways to build your constituency and build money. However, events are still valuable to those for whom they're valuable. It is a great way to create community and for people to get face to face and have energy around an effort. So for some nonprofits, they still are really valuable. For others, they're not. I don't think there are enough tools to help nonprofits figure out the difference.
Have you been to an event where you said, wow, that was a great event? I wonder who did it?
Other than mine. I say that tongue in cheek, but honestly, I don't go many places. I'm kind of a recluse, if you will. I really enjoy being home. I did go to the U.S. Open tennis tournament in New York a few years back. That was impressive. That is one time I can remember being impressed by an event.
Is there an event that you haven't done that you would like to do?
One for youth meditation.
Angela, where did you grow up?
Mostly in Charlotte. I grew up here until the summer between 9th and 10th grade. And then 10th grade, we moved to Louisville, Kentucky.
What took you to Louisville?
My mom and her new husband.
What was important to you growing up?
I think what was important to me growing up was keeping up a certain facade. Not letting people in too close to see what my life was really like. I was very self-conscious that it wasn't what I thought it should be. My parents were divorced and my mother had remarried, and there was some trouble there. And that's not something I wanted anybody to see.
How did that show up in your life?
Oh, it showed up to, it created a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of anger, and I think the anxiety took over more than I realized. And I never realized it until I started meditating and until it started to let go. And then I realized what I was missing.
So you carried that anger and anxiety with you for many years.
Yeah, I think I know that I finally started to let go of the anger somewhere around college. Anger over my parents splitting up, over many things. And forgiveness was the key to that. But the anxiety was huge. And when you're an event planner, there's all sorts of anxiety. How many different ways you're going to crash and burn publicly? And have you really bitten off more than you can chew this time? When is it going to end, right? When's everybody going to figure out you don't know how to do this? So yeah, the anxiety just grew. The anger started to go away, but the anxiety grew for sure.
Angela, you studied marketing at the University of Louisville.
Yes.
Why marketing?
I think there's some anthropological nature to marketing that I loved. And I love the way people's minds work. And I liked business and I liked working with people. My parents had their own business. I've been working since I was 15. And I joined a marketing firm, an international marketing firm, while I was in college, and was actually much more enthralled with working there than going to school. But it was always fascinating to me.
You had an incredible first job out of college, didn't you?
Yes. Not one I deserved, but I sure did. And I don't even remember how it came to me, but I interviewed with the owner of a new sport drink called Performance Sport Drinks. So Joey Caldwell and his wife owned it, and I think he was from maybe Gastonia. I don't remember quite, but their business was here in Charlotte, and my first interview with him was on a private plane, which I was scared to death to get on. And he gave me this huge title of National Sales Manager. Like I said, I totally didn't deserve it, but I certainly took it.
Performance sports drinks became notorious, as well as Joey Caldwell.
Yes, it was a huge life lesson for me. I always knew something wasn't right. There was some undercurrent there. It was fun. We had a great time. It was a young staff. It was very energizing to work for such a new product and to see it gain momentum in the stores and in our events and everywhere else. But you experience a person when you're with them, and something was off, something was wrong. I didn't realize how wrong, and I never understood it to be what it ended up being. But one day I went to the warehouse to get product to sample, and the warehouse was locked. And Small Business Administration had put a sign on it saying that this warehouse is padlocked. So I run to the office to find out what's happening, and the whole thing just unraveled. It turned out he had been selling stock that wasn't registered and a host of other things. The end of it is that the CEO ended up making a partnership with one of his distributors, and then he murdered that distributor for the Keyman insurance policy.
And what became of Mr. Caldwell?
Mr. Caldwell's wife confessed to being a false alibi, and he was put in jail for the murder of his partner and for other things, and then he ended up hanging himself in jail.
This is your first post-college employment.
Yes.
What did you learn, Angela?
What did I learn? To trust my own instincts of people, no matter their station in life or in work, that my experience of a person is more valuable than their title.
Was this a traumatic experience for you?
Yes. I lost my job, of course. Well, actually, I left, and my parents had always told me, you don't leave one job before you have another. That's not a responsible thing to do. But with what was happening around me, I didn't feel I could stay there. So there was a bit of contention there, knowing that I was doing something I shouldn't, but my gut was telling me I needed to leave. And upon the exit interview, I was threatened, which gave me a little more sureness that that's probably what I needed to do. But yeah, it left me out there not knowing what to do next. So I took a job at the Sheraton Hotel selling overnight rooms, which was a huge step down, not only in title, but in salary. And I honestly hated that job, but it taught me how to stick it out. And then there I became their catering director after about 1.5 years, which was a really, really big step up. And once again, probably a bigger job than I deserved, but I efforted to deserve it. And I was there for 6 years until I moved on.
And you went on to the Charlotte City Club.
I did.
And what did you do there?
Same thing. So I was director of private parties and handled all of their private events for members and non-members.
And that began your journey in event planning.
It did. It did. I met my business partner, Sicky Rogers, there. She was planning an event, and I had met event planners before, but I had never met one that I felt I wanted to emulate.
You then started your own business.
I did. I called Sicky and asked her to sell me hers, and she said no. So then I called her again, asked her to hire me. She said, I can't afford you. And I called her again. I can't remember what for. And she said, you can do it on your own. Come and see me and I'll talk to you about it. And so I went to her house and she gave me some of the best advice. I would never have known to do these things on my own. And so I went out on my own. And about a year and a half later, she called me and said, how would you like to be partners? Yes.
How long ago was that?
15 years ago. Yeah. In 15 years, Sicky and I have been through a lot. The passing of her husband and me deciding that I didn't want to do this business with 7 employees anymore. That's not the way I wanted to build a business. And she went to work for someone else for a time. And so we drew up papers to split our partnership, but we never signed them. So she worked for someone else for a time, and that took some letting go. And it really took both of us to decide what was important. And what we came to was that we were important to each other, that our health and happiness was more important than these other tedious things. So we never actually signed the split, and she stopped working for the other company and came back. So now we're working together again. And it's only us, which is lovely, and all of our wonderful partners.
What's the most gratifying part of your job?
Seeing something you've envisioned actually come together and have life.
Angela, what do you hope your children learn from you?
That human beings are fallible, but it's okay. That the worst parts of them are not who they are. And I hope they learn to love themselves a lot.
Angela, as we come to a close, what gives you peace of mind?
Knowing who I am, and what I'm here to do, and making my best effort at doing that.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And Mark, so fun.
Angela Gala is co-founder and executive director of Youth Meditation. She is also founder and principal of Rogers & Gala Creative Partners, an event planning firm. Angela holds a BA in marketing from the University of Louisville. And now, a personal word. My guided meditation session with Angela was unusual. We were seated at my kitchen table with microphones in front of us, recording our conversation when Angela suggested that we give a meditation session a go. As they say in the performing arts, it's better to show than tell, and showing on the radio or on a podcast has its magic. So I jumped right in. Mindful of the long pauses as Angela had me close my eyes and breathe, I hoped listeners would stay with us. But as Angela noted, we don't really create anything new and exciting and alive until we let our self-awareness go. It's true in art and in sports and in teaching and in writing and in leading and in doing. We are in the zone, in flow, when we are outside ourselves. My first experience with guided meditation was in January 1982 on the campus of Rollins College. It was my freshman year, and it was winter term. At the time, Rollins offered a 4-week class between fall and spring terms. The class offerings were, let's say, on the fun and experimental side. Students were encouraged to study outside their comfort zone, to fully experience the breadth of the liberal arts. The best way to ensure a good experience was to choose a great professor, less so the class. At Rollins in the 1980s, the department with the best reputation for teaching was the history department, which I will talk about another day. But I had that department covered as I was a newly declared history major. Running neck and neck was the philosophy and religion department. And there was one of the most popular and intriguing professors on campus, Dr. Hoyt Edge. Dr. Edge was an elfish, mop-topped professor who taught philosophical psychology, cognitive anthropology, cross-cultural concepts of self, and parapsychology. Basically, that meant Dr. Edge messed with your head. He was interested in his students having a variety of psychic experiences. We read William James and accounts of telepathy, clairvoyance, psychokinesis, psychic healing, and precognition. If we could have consumed mushrooms or taken LSD, we would have. But this was the dawn of the Reagan era. The days of academically sponsored acid trips were long gone. So, the next best thing: deep, guided meditations to activate our untapped minds. Dr. Edge would sit cross-legged on a table as we sat cross-legged on a Persian rug in the middle of French House, an intimate building with a one-room salon with a high ceiling and a fireplace with a mosaic of the Madonna, the mother of Jesus, not the singer, overlooking those that gathered. Dr. Edge would invite us to straighten our backs, to close our eyes, to breathe, and to relax. For nearly 30 minutes, we sat. Our minds would go crazy, but we sat. We breathed, and we finally relaxed. And of course, that's exactly when we were to open our eyes. It was good enough value on tuition for me to take several more classes in philosophy and religion, and to minor in it. It was the start of many considerations of the mind. I have come to love the big unanswered questions. What's it all about? How do we live well? How do we create meaning in life? Indeed, the very point of this podcast. And I can trace it back, well, at least partially, to daydreaming in French House. Today, it is Angela Gala and others like her who do the work of introducing students to the mysteries and possibilities of their body and mind. She invites young women and men from all walks of life into calmness and compassion. She sees in her students their wonder. It is an act of love. This is Mark Paris, and you've been listening to On Life and Meaning. Thank you to my partners Andy Go, producer of the show, and to Chris Curriton, art and media director. This is how you can help. Please write a review on iTunes. It helps us grow our audience. Follow us on Facebook. We'd love to hear what you think about the show. And become a patron. We are on Patreon, a crowdsourcing platform that allows you to support what you value. Visit us also on our website, onlifeandmeaning.com. Thank you for listening.